How's everybody doing? Don't you guys get excited toward the end of the semester? It's like you've accomplished something. This is like my favorite time. People say to me, do you like to teach? I say, I love to teach. I said, what do you like about it? I said, one of the coolest things about teaching is you have a definitive beginning and end. When you guys get out and go to work, you don't have a definitive ending, right? It just when I was practicing law, it just kept going. That kid of mine, she just keeps going, right? There's no end. There's always something to do or something to think about or say. But when the semester's over, it's over, right? Unless one of you appeals your grade or something, which I had 30 years. I've only had one grade appeal now that I think about it. Don't let that get anything in your mind. No, because my deal is I don't change grades unless we make a mistake in the math. I've never felt it was fair for somebody to come after the fact to all the other students and say, hey, if I do this, I get a better grade? I just never thought that was fair. As a matter of fact, when I was at Tech, the provost told me I had to change a grade one time when I was teaching part-time. I wasn't tenured like now. And I said, I don't think I'm going to do that. And she said, well, I'm telling you to do that. And I said, I was kind of a new lawyer. And I thought, you know what? That doesn't sound very good to me. I said, but I'll tell you what. Because I explained to her, I said, it's not fair. Why should I change this student's grade and not everybody else's? And she said, because I'm asking you to. It's good for the university. I think this person's father was a donor or something. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. If I'm going to move this person to an A, I'm going to move everybody in the class to an A. She said, well, you can't do that. I said, well, if I can move one, I can move 50. So that was the end of that. I said, okay. Of course, I didn't teach there anymore either, but yeah. But got to speak up when the time is right. Yeah. So, anyway, it's nice. You guys are going to get out into the real world, so to speak, and you're not going to have these definitive ends. Many of you are going to want to come back to school when it's all said and done. Right, Zach? Yeah. That's what I thought. So, how many of you actually took some time to look at the articles I put in, or Spencer put into Blackboard for you? Just raise your hand. I know a lot of you didn't. Raise your hand if one or two. Daniel did? Is that a yes? You didn't? Nobody else did? Son of a biscuit eater. Well, all right, I really feel like you're missing out. I wish you would have, because it's, for the objectives, I won't go into them again. I wish you'd have done that, because I really feel like you'd have gotten a lot out of that. Neva?
I looked at them. They were kind of overwhelming.
They are overwhelming, yeah. They're in about 8-point font, and no, I hope you'll go back and take a peek. I chose those for a reason. Change management is crucial. You guys are you're managing change every single day today. Used to be we'd manage change once a year when we laid some people off. But today, new technology comes out, you're managing change. You hire anybody new in the team, you're managing change. It's really a valuable quality that I think you should practice. And there's some good insight in those articles. Although, to be fair, like I told you, I really feel like what's in those articles was kind of a precursor to emotional intelligence. And we've talked about emotional intelligence in here. So if you guys will continue to practice that, you will be able to manage change. Just a quick summary of those 4 or 5 articles is this. The keys to managing change are empathy and communication. When you start thinking about change, you just can't think about how it impacts you or the business. You have to think about how it impacts your employees and your other constituencies. Can change impact vendors? Yeah, and you've got relationships with these vendors. You've got to think about that. Can change impact your customers? Yeah, guys, if you're at a country club and you turn loose of somebody's favorite person that's been there 30 years, You have to be prepared to visit with your members about that. And the better you prepare them up front, the easier it's going to be going forward. It's the same thing in a restaurant that has a bartender for a long time. If you cut them loose, your customers are going to want to know where they are. And your key to keeping those customers is to managing that change and that transition. So let's make change personal. How many of you are a little nervous about graduating? How many of you are graduating? And how many of you are nervous about shifting out into the real world? Spencer's got his hand up. Cole, you a little bit?
I'm more like just ready to like start working full time.
To get going. Yeah, Daniel?
I know one change is about being about graduating.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'm a little nervous because from what I've heard from everyone else who's been in college, from everyone who's years older than me, they say that these are the best 4 years of your life.
College?
Yes. Really?
There was, to be, we'll come back to that, but go ahead.
If you read that the article on the Kinsey report,
Yeah. Interesting.
you will never change again.
You'll never change again. So Daniel, how do you feel then?
So like, I don't know. I just feel like around this time is whenever you're exposed to a lot of stuff. Like you're learning, you're joining organizations, you're doing this, that. And
Yeah.
the other. So
Yeah.
after you graduate, you're kind of in the working world. That's whenever you don't really have a lot of guidance. It's more, what are you prepared for the real world after graduation?
Yeah.
It's like you're really setting yourself up for success after you graduate.
Yeah.
So.
Look, I think one of the key I think that's a great point. The 4-year thing is the happiest years of your life, and the reason is I think, even 15 years ago, I think you could have argued that it was a pretty good time and pretty peaceful. Today, with what all you guys have grown up with, I'm hopeful that there'll be times in your life that are more calm and peaceful, not at war. And in my lifetime, we've always been at war, and that's just horrible to think about. Just horrible. And then I was struck by a news, I can't remember where I saw it, but no, it was a video piece where a mother, I know what it was. She lives in Colorado. She lives where Columbine was, in that town. And she said that as soon as her daughter was able to understand, she began to talk to her daughter about how she lost her friends in that shooting. And that even in kindergarten, they do drills about what to do in an active shooter situation. I just hate that for a generation. I hate it. I just think it's horrible what we've come to. So I'm hopeful that there are more peaceful years for every one of you ahead. I think one of the key things I'd encourage you to think about change is change doesn't have to be cataclysmic. It doesn't have to be chaotic. Whether it's ending a relationship, whether it's ending a job, whether it's transitioning from school to work, just gently let go what you've been doing and embrace the new. But it doesn't have to be this chaotic, histrionic type event. I think the best change happens when it's not even noticeable, whether it's in society or whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in your personal life. So I'd encourage you to keep that in mind. Let me give you a couple of thoughts about the change you're going to face when you get out there. I think one of the key things that students don't realize, for many of you went to school and worked. Is that fair? And I did that, and so I get it. But when you get out of school and you just work, you've got a lot of free time. And what you have to realize, it's a lot of unstructured time. When you're here going to school and going to work, it's all structured time. And it keeps you out of trouble. A lot of people I know transition out of school and they get into the workplace, and all of a sudden they have 20 or 30 hours of free time a week, and they get themselves in a lot of trouble, whether it's drugs, alcohol, overeating, whatever it is. You have to make a plan for that time. And today with technology, if you use it right, not Instagram sifting through that, but if you use technology right, you guys are in a position to have more free time than anybody, right? You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to go to the post office. You don't have to go buy a newspaper. You don't have to buy a magazine. You don't have to go buy a book. Everything is right here, and all that adds up to more free time for you. But you have to make a plan about that time. We've talked a lot about making plans and strategy in here. And you need to be prepared for that, because it can be overwhelming for some people. I know you're out there going, wait, free time can be overwhelming? But it can be. That's why people don't retire today. How many of you know people that are retired and are very unhappy, or wish they retired too early? Yeah. So, and I told you guys last time we talked, think about 4 or 5 different careers. And just keep making them better each time. It will serve you well. And you'll learn. You'll learn a lot. I told the associate dean the other day, I've been teaching now for almost 35 years, if you count what I did at Texas Tech, and that just turned out, I just fell into it, fortunately. But, and I thought I was a decent teacher back then. But looking back, I really wasn't very good, given who I think I am today and the kind of teacher I am today. My point is that you evolve, and you'll evolve in the job. Diego, when you look back, are you a much better leader today than you were when you started? Definitely. And so age brings some wisdom, and it also brings a little lightening up, right? Not everything's quite as important as it was. Is that a fair?
And also what has shaped me a little bit is that I'm a father and I have a wife.
Yeah.
So I see life different now.
Much different.
It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about her.
Yeah.
And she's about to be 1 year old.
Yeah.
Everything I do is because of her.
Exactly. You move out of that egocentric lens, and you look at things from a more authentic lens, right? And that helps you in the workplace. Yeah. So always remember, though, also, and I think you'll validate this, if things are going well in your personal life, things are going to go better in your professional life. So try to keep things in your personal life manageable, peaceful. And if you have contentment there, whether it's on your own or with somebody else, then your professional life will go much better as well. And don't ever let your professional life infect your personal life in a negative way. Do you get that? That is disastrous. Be smart enough to separate that from your personal life. Don't bring, if you've got negativity and toxicity going on in professional life, don't let that invade your personal life. Those people in your personal life don't deserve that. You get that? Okay. So, I want to spend just a few minutes talking about positive leadership. I typically do a whole program on it on the last day, but I thought you guys could probably use a day off. Am I right? So I'm just going to spend just a few minutes and summarize that, then we'll call it a day. But, so look, and it really is just a recap of all the things we've talked about. A good leader, don't make it complicated. It's very simple. A leader is a coach, a teacher, and a facilitator. That's what leaders need to be good at. Coach, teacher, facilitator. A coach, Andrew, I know you and I both had coaches that were not positive. But there is no such thing, ladies and gentlemen, as a negative coach. You can be negative, but you can't be a coach at the same time. Coaches are there to nurture and reinforce good behavior. That's what coaches do. And while I'm on this roll, if you're going to be a parent, and many of you will be a coach to your children. The world will beat your children up. They don't need you for that. They need you to be their safe haven, their place they go when the world is challenging for them. That's when they need you the most. Final thought on that, being the parent that I am. Love your children for who they are, not who you want them to be. Do you see the difference? Your children are entitled to their own life. You had yours. Let them be them and love every part of them, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. That's called unconditional love. That's what successful parents do. I've had 15,000 students. I can tell you, those kids whose parents were helicopters, so to speak, made every decision for their kid, forced them to do different things. I don't mind direction. I don't mind coaching. I don't mind reinforcement. But negative and driving this you have to do it my way thing is, it impacts children for the rest of their lives. And I've seen it. And I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for your children. So love your children for who they are, not who you want them to be.
Well, Professor,
Bevan?
You gotta be a little autocratic because I'm kind of like a Bible guy. So the Bible says you must train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he shall not depart from it. So you see, you talk about a coach, right? A coach is someone who trains you to be a good player then. So
But how do they train you?
you can't just let the player do what they want to do. You gotta well, okay then, a leader then is someone who inspires you, right? So you see, a leader is like it's the innate quality of the human being to want someone to lead them, right? Hopefully it's not somebody who's going to lead you in a bad way, or someone who's going to lead you in a good way, to do the right thing. But you got to teach kids to do the right thing. Okay, like most, you remember the philosopher who said, I think it's Immanuel Kant, who said you're born with a. Okay, if you put a child with, no, a child is not born to be prejudiced or racist.
That's true, they're not. So they have to learn that somewhere.
Yeah, but it's just an example. But I still believe that, you say, maybe it's not going to be relevant to you, but I used to get whipped real hard by my father and my mother. But I still grew up to love them because I learned to appreciate what they have done for me. And they brought me through the worst. Say, okay, my father, he never abandoned me, and if he did abandon me, he waited until I was 18 years old, which is enough time for me to mature as a young man before he abandoned me. But so a child needs, even babies, they need someone to lead them. You can't just let it. I seen babies born with an attitude that, man, you gotta whip it out of them or they will grow. You ever see a baby that grows with a tantrum? Everything they want, and if they don't get it,
I know
I mean,
adult.
they'll be flipping all over the place and crying at most.
And how many of us know adults that react the exact same way?
Yeah, they will grow that way.
No, but here's the thing. It depends on how you respond to that. But children aren't typically, they're not born, as you pointed out, they're not born hating. They're not born violent. It depends on how we respond to it. And I'm gonna disagree with you about the whooping.
No,
I'm not a fan.
Well,
I
maybe not whipping, but if a child does, if you're gonna give them everything that they want, I mean.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, look,
And-
I'm not
and they-
saying
and
that
they
you,
feel a tantrum for it if they don't get it.
hold on. I'm not saying that we allow children to do whatever they choose. But I am saying we empower children to make their own decisions, just like we empower employees to make decisions. In order to empower employees to make decisions, what has to exist? Trust. Your child needs to know that you trust them. Are you going to agree with every decision your child makes? You're just not going to do it. I think my daughter would tell you today that one of the most important things I said to her was, when a big decision was there, I said, look, all I ask is that you listen to my perspective, but in the end, it's your decision. And here's the most important part. I always told her, and I still tell her to this day, whatever you decide, no matter whether I agree with it or not, I am right behind you, 100%. And I think she'd probably tell you that was probably besides I love you, I think that's probably the most important thing that I told her. Because she knew no matter what she did, no matter how she went, I was always going to be there. And I think that's how you provide guidance and direction. But here's the thing, Bubba, if I may. You know, parents that make all the decisions for their children are robbing the children. Just like employees, you're robbing them from understanding the consequences of their decisions. And at the end of the day, just like employees and children, when the child leaves your home, can you make decisions for them? No. So the most important thing from my perspective that a parent can do from a leadership perspective is to teach your children how to make good choices, how to reason, how to think through the consequences, how to get outside themselves and look at the impact on other people. And it's the same thing with employees. Can you make every decision for all of your employees? No. And if that's your micromanagement style, then your employees are going to be afraid to make decisions on your behalf. And they're going to make poor decisions because they're going to do it out of fear rather than what's the right thing to do. But look, it's not easy. It's hard to trust other people to make choices. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but I encourage you to do it. I got to keep going. Let me just go. So, coach, teach, facilitate. Remember, teaching is different than training. Always remember that. Training is about creating habits. Habits aren't bad things. In our business, they're good. The consistent delivery of a product or service that meets or exceeds the customer's expectations. So we teach servers how to wait on a table, right? And we do it consistently. We teach the cook in the back how to prepare that plate exactly the same way every time. Those types of habits are important. But it's just as important that we teach people how to think so that they can solve problems. Will things always go right, Zachary? And when they do, we need people that don't throw a tantrum, that don't melt down, that recognize that we have to do things differently? Or how do we solve this problem? Those are the types, that's first of all, it's the kind of person you want to be. And second, those are the kinds of employees that you want, people that can solve problems. And then a facilitator is somebody that recognizes that your job as a leader is to kind of grease the wheels. You should bring the knowledge, the insight, the experience. You should be able to anticipate and connect dots when other people don't have that ability. Look, the people in the kitchen, or the people in the housekeeping, the people in maintenance, they might not have your ability to think. Some might, but a lot of them don't. And somebody needs to do that thinking with them and for them, right? Somebody needs to look at their processes and help them and say, hey, how can we do this differently? That's what you bring. That's what leaders bring. And then in addition, right, so you're coach, teacher, facilitator. In addition, you want to be the person that provides direction. And we've talked about that a lot. You develop the mission statement, you develop the core values, and you develop the goals. That's what you do. That's what leaders do. And then you inspire people to willingly achieve those goals and that mission statement. Remember what I told you the very first day of class. You're like a conductor of an orchestra. You've got to make all the instruments play well together. That's your goal. That's what leaders do. All right. So, questions about leadership? No. All right. So you have you have an exam on Tuesday, and the last paper that will be turned in Thursday. You can turn it in early if you want. I slide it on my door, give it to Spencer. But I'm looking forward to reading them. This is one of my favorite papers to read. It's not like grading for me on these papers. Other times it's like grading. This time not so much. I enjoy reading this. So please put the time and effort into these. Be proud of these. Really show me the kind of leader you want to be, right? Inspire me. So please use the first person singular, I, with your paper. I want to hear about you and what you think. So own it. Because I want this to be something that you'll keep for a long time. All right? Okay, last but not least, about, and we talked a little bit about this, but the parenting thing, and I'm coming to this because I heard recently about some students that have really struggled with family relationships and things like that. And I think it's important that everybody understand that holding a grudge or resenting anybody is unhealthy. Right? And you know why from our discussions about emotional intelligence. Yeah? It's just, remember what I told you, it's holding a grudge or resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. You're just killing yourself. And it helps you to forgive and to forget if you will accept the fact that everybody does their best at the time under the circumstances. Wrap your head around that, and your life will be much more peaceful and much more productive and much less histrionic. If you can take that attitude into the workplace, you will not get angry at people. You will not yell and scream at people. You will not judge people. You will just accept that. Now, I'm not saying you let the same mistake happen over and over again. That's a totally different issue, and we've talked about that. But we learn when we make mistakes. All of us do. Nobody's perfect. How many of you are kind of perfectionists? Raise your hand. Okay, well, let's talk about that for just 1 second. The challenge there is that perfectionists, in my perspective, think everybody should be perfect, and they try to hold everybody to that high standard but themselves. Now, they're hard on themselves, but they're harder on the people around them. So it makes relationships, both personally and professional, very difficult. So just be self-aware about that. Ambition is great, but you also have to accept, and that'll make things easier for you. Last piece of that discussion is, so if you're struggling with your parents, forgive them. They did the best they could at the time. That's all anybody does. If they could have done it differently, they would have. But they didn't know how. Got it? All right. Yeah. All right, I have 2 papers here that I'm going to leave here. Spencer, will you please pick them up when all is said and done if the students don't? But please pick them up. On this one, there is a final grade. On this one, I need the previous paper in order to give a final grade. So I need that, and then please give that back to Spencer, and we'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to step out. Hey, well, you need to leave. Yeah. Yes. All right, so, but I think Spencer has you set up to do the course evaluation.
Yeah, you guys know how to do that?
Yes. Okay, so we set aside this time to do that, so you don't have to do it on your free time. And I'll be out the door here shortly. But it's been a pleasure. I won't see you guys. And you're welcome to stop by and drop your paper off if you want to visit. I'm happy to do that. But you guys have been, it's been an enjoyable class. I've enjoyed it. I wish you the best of luck. And if I can help, please let me know. What do you got, Ruth? What is it? We have to do the test. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
You ever heard this story about
Yeah, I have. I don't want you to hurt. Okay. I don't want to step on it either.
but you see,
Oh, hey, wait. Ben. How many people in here work at the Post Oak? You guys do me a favor. If you don't mind, give your email at Post Oak Hotel. Give your email address to Ben. We found out there's like 9 or 10 or 11 of our student or former students. Well, get everybody's email address, because I'm going to try to connect everybody that works out there. Because I met some other people yesterday that work out there. They're alums, but I think it'd be good. Yeah, they're in really key positions. I think it'd be good for you guys. Yeah, so give them to Ben. Ben, if you don't mind, then send them to me, and I'll connect it with the other group. Okay, yeah.
what they have out there, what they have out the postal.
I gotta step out because they're doing the evaluations. What is that? The exam.
Yeah, what about where I must go? I can do it online, like.
No, I think you need to do it at the Center for Students with Disabilities, right?
I did it online. Nobody helped me.
Okay, well, I think.
I could just do it online. I mean, it's on.
Listen, all I want is for you to take the exam. So you work with Spencer, and if you want to do it online and Spencer says okay, I'm good with it. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, just tell Spencer.
so he can set it up.
I don't know.
Alright, see you next year.